Hello, welcome. Today we are going to discuss the important topics and concepts which can be asked from Western logic. Now, you see, logic is one of the most important units from the exam's point of view. You can easily expect 8 to 9, 10 questions from this particular unit. Now, you need to be absolutely thorough with the nature of propositions, relation between the four categorical propositions, the nature of those, the contradictories, contraries, subcontraries, and subordination. So, for that reason, lecture 270 is extremely important. You can definitely expect one question from this particular lecture itself. Why do I say that? Because if you go through the previous examinations papers, you will find that there's at least a question on either contraries or contradictory, subalternation or subcontraries. So you can definitely expect a question from this particular lecture. Then moving on, the additional square of opposition, extremely important again. What's the relationship between A, E, I, O propositions? Extremely important. Be very thorough with this. Then you have nature of proposition. So in case if you look at it, 270, 271 and 272 are in one way or the other dealing with one concept, but talking about the same concept in different variations. So you need to be absolutely thorough with these three lectures. Extremely important. I'm saying it again. Then you have Venn diagrams. You can expect one question from Venn diagrams. This could be, also in a form of a theoretical question. For instance, you can be asked about the purpose of Venn diagrams and you could be given statements for the same and you have to figure it out accordingly. Then you have the 9 rules of inference, most important concept. If you go through the previous examination papers, you'll find the same. Then categorical syllogism, kinds of categorical syllogisms, definition of the same. What are the different, what are, for instance, categorical syllogism, what is disjunctive, what's the difference between the two, what is hypothetical, very, very important. Then again, you would know that hypothetical syllogism is further divided into pure and mixed. So very important, lecture 275 again, extremely important. Then you have conjunction. You need to be absolutely certain with what is single and compound statements, the difference between the two with examples. Then what is the purpose and the function of truth functional component? What are the truth functional connectives? This is very well explained with the help of examples, so please go through them. Extremely important. Then we have Boole's interpretation of the square of opposition. Now this is very important, although this wasn't asked in the examination last year, but this is a very important concept. Why? Because this is dealing with a slight twist from what you have originally studied in the traditional square of opposition. So please be very thorough with what's the difference between traditional square of opposition and Boole's interpretation of the same. Okay. Then we have the concept of truth and validity. Very important, not only theoretically, but you can also be asked this in a form of a syllogism. Be very clear with it. Now, coming on to the most important concepts is 281 and 282. Why do I say that? Because we're dealing with informal fallacies and formal fallacies. Now, you see, there is there's a very simple way of addressing this entire unit. If you go through the last year papers, you'll find that there are repetitive questions. Now, what I mean by repetitive is that, of course, the language of the questions change, but they are asked from the same concept, here and there. So informal fallacy, what are the different kinds of informal fallacy? What do we understand when we say there is an informal fallacy? How is it very different from a formal fallacy? What are the different kinds of formal fallacies? All of this needs to be absolutely clear to you. This is a very important concept. Okay. So then we are moving on to quantification. Quantification is very important. What is existential generalization, universal generalization, most important concept. Remember this with examples. Then we have some more informal fallacies, like I told you earlier, very important. Quantification, another aspect of it is universal instantiation and universal generalization. Be absolutely thorough with the definition of these and also the examples concerned. Then we have some more informal fallacies, so you have to watch all these lectures in continuity. And we have some more, for instance, false dilemma, if by whiskey. If you go through the typical books which are recommended, you wouldn't find as many informal fallacies, but we have gone through extensive literature and we have found out that whatever informal fallacies that could be asked from the exam's point of view are done in here. They're done in a detailed manner. For instance, if you see, starting from lecture 286 and some of the above lectures and then going on till 290, we're just dealing with informal fallacies. You see, it's going to be a very simple question. You just simply have to understand that, what is Gambler's fallacy? How is it different from any other? For instance, you see this here, ignoratio elenchi. This is very important. This was asked in the exam last year. So be very thorough with these, okay? Then we have propositional fallacy. Now, what is propositional fallacy? Similarly, remember this. Then proving validity, extremely important. Then we have rules of replacement, logical equivalence. Then using the truth tables to find the tautology of biconditionals. You, I mean, there are less chances of you being asked to draw a truth table, or find out the tautology of the question from the truth table. So you won't get it like that, like we have discussed it in the lecture. Just be very thorough with, if you get this by chance in the examination, you know how you have to deal with this kind of a question, okay? Then lecture 298, very important. We are dealing with the three laws of thought. Be very clear with what the three laws of thought are. We have discussed them in a great detail here. We have discussed the purpose, the definition, and also the examples of the same. Please watch this lecture very carefully. Then using the truth tables to determine the tautologies and contingency, like I told you above, be thorough with what the tautologies are and how they're different from the contingencies. Then we have an axiomatic system. You can get a question on the axiomatic system. This is an important topic. Then Venn diagrams, like I told you above also, don't focus so much on, learning how to draw the same, and don't practice these questions by drawing the Venn diagrams, because you wouldn't get that kind of questions in the exam. It's more important from the angle of, understanding the meaning, the purpose of the same, and what are the eight classes represented by the three overlapping circles. In case it's asked in the exam, it's dealt in lecture 302 in a great detail. Okay, then we are moving to sororities with examples. Very important concept. You can definitely get a question on the same. It's in lecture 3 or 4. Then we have the symbolic representation of four categorical propositions. You can watch this lecture in continuity with the above lectures that we discussed pertaining to categorical propositions. Then we have the six syllogistic rules. Again, very important concept. Then the next important thing that could be asked in the exam is, lastly here, if you look at lecture 309, this is dealing with the mood. Now, what is the mood? What is the understanding of the mood? The standard form of a categorical syllogism would help us understand or determine the mood. It's dealing with three letters and how mood is different from the figure. Now, the last aspect of it is very important. If you go through the last year papers, this was also actually asked in the exam. So be very thorough with the theoretical definition of mood and how it is different from a figure. You could be asked this in the exam, and if you want a detailed analysis of the same, we have discussed this in lecture 308. So these are the important concepts that can be asked from logic. Please be absolutely certain of the fact that at least 8 to 9 or 10 questions will be asked from this particular unit. All of the concepts have been dealt in a great detail. So I wish you all the best, and please go through them very nicely. Thank you.